Hello, this is Krystal, and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be reading from the beginning of Nghi, The Empress of Salt and Fortune. This is the first book in her Singing Hills cycle. Chapter 1. Something wants to eat you, called Almost Brilliant from her perch in a nearby tree, and I shall not be sorry if it does. Chiming bells. G rolled to their feet, glancing around the perimeter and squinting at the jingling string of bells that surrounded the small campsite. For a moment, they were back at the Abbey in Singing Hills, late for another round of prayers, chores, and lessons. But Singing Hills did not smell of ghosts and damp pine boughs. Singing Hills did not make the hairs on G's arms rise up in alarm, or their heart lurch with panic. The bells were still again. Whatever it is, it's past. It's safe to come down. The hoopoe chirped something that managed to convey both suspicion and exasperation in a two-tone call, but she came down to settle on G's head, shifting uneasily. The protections must still be up. We are very close to Lake Scarlet now. We wouldn't even have gotten this far if they were. G considered for a moment, and then they stepped into their sandals and ducked under the belled string. Almost Brilliant fluttered up in alarm before coming down to land on G's shoulder this time. Cleric G, get back to your campsite. You are going to get killed, and then I will have to tell the Divine how terribly irresponsible you were. Be sure to make a good account of it, G said absently. Hush now. I think I can see what made that racket. The hoopoe made a disgruntled rustling noise, but she dug her claws more firmly into G's shoulder. Despite their bravado, the Nexon's feathery weight on their shoulder was a comfort, and G reached up to stroke her crest gently before walking between the pines. They knew that there was no road there. They had crossed the white pine copse earlier that day, and though they could see the remnants of a road underneath the overgrown bracken and fallen boughs, it wouldn't have let a dog cart through. G suspected that the road had once connected Lake Scarlet to the Royal Highway, in the days before the lake had been taken off every map and effectively disappeared by a highly dedicated and skilled Imperial sorcerer. There was no road there during the day, but obviously at night, things were different. The road ran as broad as barge through the trees, and ranged on either side were faded ghosts, the former guardians of Lake Scarlet. Even a few months ago, G knew, the ghosts would have fallen on any living thing that crossed their path, tearing them to pieces and then crying because they were still so hungry. Now, though, they had eyes for nothing but the palanquin coming down the ghost road from the east, the direction of Lake Scarlet. It was borne by 6 veiled men. Their feet did not quite touch the ground. In the moonlight, it was all silvered, but G could tell that by all rights it should be swathed in imperial red and gold, the mammoth and lion of the empire embroidered in lavish detail on the curtains. There was only one woman in the world who had the right to show the mammoth and the lion, and she was to be crowned in her first dragon court in the capital. Well, thought G, curling their hand around Almost Brilliant for comfort, only one living woman. G bowed as low as the ghosts around them as the palanquin went by, wishing with all their might that the late Empress would open the drapes and show her face. Would it be the wrinkled woman swathed in thick silks G had once glimpsed as a child on Huxen, or would it be a far younger woman, the Empress of Salt and Fortune as she had first come to Anne before the end of the eternal summer, and before the mammoth had trampled the lion? When G straightened, ghosts and road and Empress were gone, leaving nothing behind but G's own pounding heart. Did you see that? They asked Almost Brilliant, who had finally stopped shivering. Yes, said the hoopoe her normally chill tone subdued. That was worth being terrified that you were going to die in a truly terrible fashion. And if you would like to know what happens next, you can check this title out on Libby. Please join me here in 2 weeks as I read from the beginning of Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I have heard nothing but fantastic things about this book. Thank you and have a great week.